Welcome back, folks. I'm Frizz, and today let's talk about ghosts, or more accurately, incorporeal creatures, since not everything that walks through walls is in fact undead. So while I'm going to be saying ghosts in this video a lot, basically everything also applies to all incorporeal creatures. In general, ghosts are one of my favorite types of creature in 2e, and they can be horrifying if you aren't prepared to encounter them. Let's start off with breaking down what makes incorporeal creatures special, shall we? Alright, so first off, you can probably guess that just from them being incorporeal, ghosts can't interact with physical objects. This means that they can walk straight through walls, and it also means that they literally cannot be grappled or tripped since, you go straight through them. Something that is important to keep in mind is that if an incorporeal creature is in an object, they're completely blind, and if they start their turn inside of an object, they then start their next turn slowed 1, meaning that sinking into the floor might not be effective as a primary combat strategy. Primarily though, being incorporeal is a defensive boost. Basically, all incorporeal creatures have resistance to all damage types except for force, positive damage if they are undead, and damage done by ghost touch weapons. Also, divine and occult sorcerers can actually get ghost touch spells, which is really interesting. I think that it's pretty much impossible for me to overrate resistance to all damage, since if you hit a ghost with a flaming sword, that resistance is going to apply both to the fire and the slashing damage that you deal. Plus, you double the amount of resistance versus non-magical damage, meaning at low levels it might be impossible to hurt a ghost because you simply don't have a magic weapon yet, and you can't get past its damage resistance 10 to all damage types. It can get really rough. On top of that, ghosts are even worse for some parties since they're also immune to precision damage, since, they don't exactly have internal organs to stab. If you've got a rogue in your party, they literally can't use their main damage dealing class feature when fighting a ghost. And you're pretty screwed if you've got other people in the party who also rely on precision damage, like a swashbuckler or a precision ranger. Plus, even if you have a ghost touch weapon, they still don't do precision damage. Now, I do think that it's pretty reasonable to allow people to do precision damage to a ghost if they have ghost touch, but that is entirely up to the GM to say whether or not that's allowed. But enough of me making ghosts seem like an insane threat. How do you actually deal with them? Well, different characters prepare for ghosts in different ways, and so long as you're ready for them, they really are just scary and not utterly terrifying. For spellcasters, things actually aren't hugely different, unless they're focusing on damage dealing spells. In general, for all spellcasters, having force and positive damage, though, does really help, since both go through a ghost's damage resistance, and a lot of literal ghosts are actually weak to positive damage. So if you have to get damage spells to deal with a ghost, force and positive are the way to go, and every tradition can get access to those. Or, well, at least Arcane and Occult has easier access to, force, and Divine and Primal have easier access to positive. For martial characters, outside of getting a magical weapon, which is already at the top of the priority list for literally every martial character, there are only two real ways to prepare for incorporeal creatures. First is a ghost touch weapon. This can only be used with melee weapons, sadly, but it does make a huge difference if you've got one. If you think you're going to be running into a bunch of ghosts in your specific campaign, buying one can save you or your buddy's life. At high levels, buying a backup ghost touch weapon also works great, again, if you think you're going to be running into enough ghosts to invest into it. If you don't want to invest that rune into ghost touch though on what might be your primary weapon, the ghost touch consumable item is legitimately amazing. It's not entirely too pricey, especially once you start leveling up a fair amount, as it only costs 18 gold, and you can use it with a single action to give a weapon ghost touch for an encounter. If you want a panic option, just in case you run into a ghost, it's great to have in your back pocket, and you can put it on your main weapon that has all of your potency and striking runes. I really like the direction that Paizo has taken incorporeal creatures in 2e. They're absolutely still a significant threat in their own unique way, and you do have to deal with them in a different way from other traditional encounters, and they're not as insanely tanky as they were in Pathfinder 1st Edition. Seriously, taking half damage from magical attacks and no damage from non-magical attacks was insane. Fighting something that is incorporeal is tons of fun, and if you're jamming, I really do recommend throwing some at your players. Thanks for watching. I'm just now realizing that this video probably would have done better in October because, you know, that's spooky season, but who says that the holidays can't be spooky season as well? Let me know what your experiences with incorporeal creatures has been down below in a comment, and subscribe whenever you're down there. There's some more ghostly stuff coming to you soon. Regardless, until I see you next, live a wonderful life.